Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to take a deep dive into some source material that offers a totally fresh perspective on something we see every day, local shops.
That's right. And the core idea is, well, it's that the people running these shops, the proprietors, are actually powerful designers themselves,
Hmm.
quietly shaping our communities.
Fascinating. So the mission here is to explore this concept, how local shop owners are, like designers, what this article means by their community vision, and how understanding that vision isn't just interesting, but, well, could be a powerful engine for neighborhood revitalization.
Exactly. We'll look at how the traditional role of an expert designer is evolving, um, dive into the specific ways local shops act as community anchors, and introduce you to a really compelling framework. 4 distinct personality types or archetypes for these shop owners. It's based on how they connect with the people around them.
And we have some great, vivid examples from South Korea to illustrate all of this, I hear.
We do, yeah. Get ready to see your local coffee shop, bookstore, or corner store in a completely new light.
All right, let's get into the source material then.
Let's do it.
So the article starts by talking about how design itself is changing, especially in the context of social innovation. When we think of traditional design, it's often the expert designer leading the way, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out what users need and creating the solution for them.
Exactly. That's the model focused on the designer as the solution provider. But in the realm of social innovation, the source material highlights a really significant shift. The power isn't really meant to reside primarily with the expert.
It belongs to the people, the citizen stakeholders.
Precisely. These citizens aren't just passive recipients. They are viewed as civic experts. They possess valuable knowledge about their own needs and their community, what the article calls tacit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge,
Yeah.
right? That's the kind of deep practical understanding you get just from like living in a place or having a particular experience, the stuff that's hard to write down.
Yes, exactly. That unarticulated lived experience. And because that knowledge resides with the people, the expert designer's role transforms. They move from being the solution provider to being, well, a facilitator.
A facilitator. So their job becomes less about dictating the solution and more about creating the environment and the tools for people to collaborate and develop their own solutions.
That's key. The article critiques the traditional design role when applied unchanged to social issues. It asks, why should the designer be the one dictating outcomes?
Right.
In social design, the ideal is for the designer to be the midwife of power, carefully enabling and channeling the power and knowledge that already exists within the community, helping it become effective and manifest in new ways. It's a vital, skilled role, don't get me wrong, but it's about enabling their power, not just wielding their own.
The designer as a midwife of power, that's a powerful image. It really flips the script, doesn't it?
It does.
Now, how does this evolving role of expert designers connect with our local shop owners being called these silent or diffuse designers?
Well, it's kind of the other side of the coin. While the expert designer facilitates, the people they work with, including these local shop proprietors, are the ones engaged in this silent or diffuse design. They're shaping experiences in communities naturally, through their everyday actions without necessarily calling it design.
So they aren't sitting down with design software, but they're using their innate abilities, creativity, a critical sense, practical know-how to make their businesses unique and attractive. Is that the idea?
That's exactly it. By incorporating their personal charm, their local knowledge, their creativity, they make decisions about their space, their offerings, their interactions, and all that ends up subtly shaping local lifestyles and culture. Their business isn't just a place to buy things, it's a point of influence. And the expert designer's opportunity here is to recognize, facilitate, and sort of empower these existing, often unconscious design activities.
And what does that look like in practice? How do these shops actually build and anchor communities around them?
The source gives a great example from South Korea with the Write and Brew Cafe.
Yeah.
Initially, it was just, a coffee and dessert spot. Pretty standard.
Okay.
But due to its location and maybe the owner's interest, it started attracting motorbiking enthusiasts.
Ah, okay. So it evolved beyond just serving coffee.
Right. It became a social hub, a regular meeting point for local bikers, and even like a planned stop for people on longer trips. It connected people with a shared passion. But it also serves the general local community, potentially introducing neighbors to motorbike culture, for instance. The shop transcends its basic function to create genuine social relationships and, well, community.
So the community itself becomes a valuable asset, almost a competitive advantage for the business then.
It really does, yeah. This concept of businesses anchoring communities isn't entirely new, of course, especially in places with deep historical local cultures. But what's significant, according to the article, is the rapid recent rise of this phenomenon in South Korea. They call it the K-local movement.
K-local. Okay, that sounds like another Korean cultural export maybe. Where is this happening?
Well, it seems to have spread really rapidly over the last decade or so. Started in places like Seoul, apparently, and then expanded across the country. Jeju, Busan, Incheon, Gunsan, Mokpo, Gwangju, Daejeon, all over.
Wow.
And the article identifies two main approaches within this movement.
And those are,
One is the community builder. This is usually a single anchor store that deliberately cultivates social connections. They might host events or workshops, bringing together artists, entrepreneurs, residents, fostering local culture.
okay,
Examples given are Wing Wing in Daejeon or Puzzle Lab in Gwangju.
got it. One business acting as a hub, intentionally weaving itself into the social fabric. What's the second approach then?
That's the master planner. Here, a single entity, maybe a development company or a planning agency, takes a more strategic approach to an entire district. They kind of brand the neighborhood and then design and operate multiple interconnected businesses within that area.
That sounds more, I don't know, orchestrated. Maybe a bit top-down.
It can be. Yeah, the article notes it might feel more intentionally created compared to communities that evolve organically over long periods. But the key takeaway is that it demonstrates that even in areas without a long history of established local culture, a systematic strategic approach can successfully create attractive, community-anchored businesses. And that can lead to neighborhood revitalization.
That's a powerful insight that community building can be intentionally designed, even when leveraging the silent design of proprietors. And speaking of intentionality, the article focuses heavily on understanding the proprietor's community vision. What exactly is that?
Right, the community vision. It's defined as the specific kind of relationships proprietors aspire to have with their three key communities: their customers, other businesses in the area, and the local residents.
Okay, customers, other businesses, residents. Why is understanding this vision so critical?
Well, it's basically the compass. It provides the direction for designing and evaluating any community-anchored experiences. If a proprietor doesn't have a clear internal picture of how they want to connect, it's very difficult to build that connection intentionally or, effectively.
But the source material suggests proprietors often don't explicitly think about this, or maybe don't have the language for it.
That's a key challenge identified. They're often just too busy with the day-to-day demands of running a business, right? They lack the time, sometimes the knowledge, or the resources to really articulate this vision, which can limit their potential community impact.
And this is where the research by the Designize Lab at KAIST comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To help unpack this, they interviewed 20 shop owners in South Korea, asking specifically about their hopes and dreams for these relationships with customers, other businesses, residents.
Right.
And from those interviews, they identified 43 distinct community aspirations.
43. And these aspirations then led to the 4 personality archetypes. This is where the framework really comes together, it seems.
Yes. They found these aspirations tended to cluster around 4 different ways proprietors relate to their communities, leading to these 4 archetypes. Think of them as like powerful lenses through which to understand a proprietor's natural inclinations and goals for community building.
Okay, let's dive into them. What's the first archetype? Lay it on us.
All right. The first is the social butterfly. This proprietor thrives on forming personal, emotional bonds. Their aspirations center around being a friend of the customer, a congenial colleague to other businesses, and a good neighbor to residents.
Got it. Building relationships based on personal connection. Is there an example they give?
Yes, a bar called Zakio. The owner apparently embodies this archetype by doing things like genuinely befriending customers, drinking with them, even helping them with personal tasks, like moving house.
Wow, really going the extra mile.
Totally. And they actively support neighboring businesses by buying their products or selling theirs. They get involved in local events like participating in university tours, that kind of thing.
That really sounds like someone weaving themselves into the social fabric through, well, genuine friendship. What's the main challenge for the social butterfly, according to the research?
The article notes it can be a huge burden on their time and manpower. I mean, this deep personal involvement is what makes them effective, but it's not easily scalable or sustainable if they're doing it all themselves.
Right. So that's where an expert designer could potentially help.
Precisely. Design experts could help by creating experiential solutions that enable those connections in ways that are less reliant on the proprietor's constant personal presence. Perhaps through designed interactions that allow for time-delayed engagement or empower others to facilitate connections within the space.
Interesting, helping them scale that personal magic, kind of. Okay, what's the second archetype?
That's the unique hipster. This type connects through shared interests, tastes, and curated experiences. Their aspirations involve finding birds of a feather among customers,
Okay.
being an experienced experimenter with other businesses, and acting as a local brand creator for the community.
So it's more about building a tribe around a specific aesthetic or passion.
Yes, curating a specific vibe. The example given is Metaphoric Forest, an independent bookshop. The owner carefully selects books and crafts the atmosphere to attract a particular kind of reader. They organize themed gatherings and events. They even allow customers to rent shelf space or host their own small events in the shop, apparently.
Oh, cool. And how do they engage other businesses, the experience experimenter part?
They collaborate to create new experiences. Like, they partnered with a nearby pub for books and beer nights
Nice.
and worked with a pottery studio to create custom candle holders for reading sessions. They also involved design students to create local-themed goods, actively promoting the neighborhood as a brand.
That feels like they're building an entire ecosystem centered on shared cultural tastes. How can designers best support the unique hipster type?
Well, experienced design expertise is key here, obviously.
Yeah.
Facilitators can help them identify and create really consistent touch points that reinforce that unique brand and experience across every interaction, physical, maybe digital too.
Got it. Makes sense. Third archetype.
The bailiwick spreader. This proprietor's community building revolves around sharing their specialized skills and knowledge. Their aspirations are to be a skills fosterer for customers, a turf expander with businesses, and the residents' pride and joy in the local community.
Bailiwick. Like their area expertise. So their expertise is the gift they give to the community.
Exactly. The example is Ordinary Craft, a ceramic studio. The owner teaches ceramic skills, but goes further by allowing customers to sell their work in the studio. Some students have even gone on to start their own ceramic businesses after training there, which is pretty cool.
That's a very direct way of fostering local economic activity and skill development.
Totally. And they expand their turf by finding new applications for ceramics through collaboration with diverse businesses, working with liquor stores, bookshops, flower shops, on custom pieces or experiences.
Yeah.
And for the community, they aspire to become a well-known local studio, embodying and spreading a brand story deeply connected to the local spirit,
Yeah.
aiming to be a source of pride for residents,
It's about leveraging their craft to elevate the whole local area. How can designers facilitate this type?
Design facilitators can help the bailiwick spreader articulate and communicate the stories of the skills they're sharing and the impact they're having. Helping them connect their craft's narrative explicitly to the local community makes them more vividly the residents' pride and joy, perhaps.
Okay, the final one, the Buy Local Crusader.
Yeah.
That name definitely suggests a mission-driven approach.
Absolutely. This proprietor is motivated by contributing to a specific cause or the overall neighborhood welfare. Their aspirations are to be a cause messenger to customers, a local immerser with businesses, and a community sustainer for the broader local community.
All right, driven by purpose.
And an example.
To Jogso. It functions as a makerspace, a zero-waste shop, and a shop-in-shop for other local businesses. They run programs teaching customers about the circular economy, like how to upcycle plastic waste into new items sold in the shop, directly linking customers to a sustainability cause.
So their business model is actually built around the cause.
Very much so, yeah. They collaborate with local creators on cultural programs, often using recycled materials like making balls from waste glass. For the wider community, they take action like installing public plastic collection stations or creating and distributing wheelchair ramps made from leftover promotional materials to other shops.
Those are really tangible contributions to the neighborhood infrastructure and well-being. What's the primary challenge this type faces?
Well, the article points out that buy local crusaders often prioritize the social or environmental cause so strongly that they might neglect core business sustainability. They risk failure before they can achieve the wider impact they desire. That's a critical tension, isn't it? How can design experts help them navigate that?
Design facilitation can help them find a better balance. It's about designing the business offerings and customer experience to be commercially viable and attractive, while still powerfully communicating the cause.
Okay.
By making it easier and more appealing for people to support the business, the cause itself gains more traction and spreads faster. It's helping them design for both impact and sustainability.
So these four archetypes, social butterfly, unique hipster, bailiwick spreader, buy local crusader, they aren't just descriptions, are they? They're really a framework for understanding a proprietor's community vision. And this framework is actually used in practical ways.
That's the powerful part, yeah. The archetypes become a key tool in the co-design process.
Co-design, right? Where designers and the people they're designing for work together.
Exactly. This framework was used with proprietors, expert designers, and even customers for several purposes: problem diagnosis, solution generation, and evaluation.
Okay, how did it help diagnose problems?
Well, the archetypes help proprietors understand their own goals and recognize their existing community activities as design, first off. The KAIST Lab used this in consulting with 12 shops, helping them identify specific problems related to their community anchoring and then strategize solutions tailored to their archetype. Expert designers help guide this diagnostic process.
And for generating solutions, how did it work there?
The archetypes provided specific design goals rooted in the proprietor's unique vision. So, in a workshop with 32 designers, using these archetypes helped them generate highly tailored interaction ideas and experiential touchpoints for different shop types. It made the solutions much more relevant than just generic approaches.
That makes total sense. You're designing with their specific style of connection in mind, not just for them. And how about evaluation? How are they used there?
They used the archetypes in speculative design workshops.
Speculative design, like where they imagine potential future scenarios.
Yes, exactly. Creating fictional shop scenarios and storyboards based on the archetype's visions. In a workshop with 40 participants, these scenarios were used to evaluate potential community anchoring experiences. This process, too, apparently relies heavily on skilled expert facilitation to make the scenarios understandable and the evaluations insightful.
This completely reframes how I think about both design and local businesses. I mean, design isn't just about aesthetics or products. It's a way of shaping relationships and building communities. And it's happening organically, all the time, at the local level.
It really highlights that idea that everybody designs in some capacity, and the article concludes by exploring what this reality means for the future of design, especially in social innovation.
Yeah, the source poses a pretty provocative question. Are we to be replaced first by AI and now by everybody? Which, is a fair question for expert designers to ask.
It is, but the clear message from the article is no. This isn't about replacing expert designers. It's about creating vast new opportunities. If everyone is designing, the expert designer's role as a facilitator becomes even more critical and valuable.
So the future isn't designing for people necessarily, but facilitating people to design for themselves and their communities more effectively.
Precisely. The trade needs to adjust, perhaps, to become experts in enabling the diffuse design activities of people like local shop owners, recognizing and amplifying their inherent creativity. The potential for positive impact when you tap into all that silent design energy is just enormous.
And the starting point for unlocking that potential is truly understanding their vision, their aspirations.
Exactly. Their hopes and dreams for the relationships they want to build. That's the fuel for effective facilitation and for creating authentic, resilient, community-anchored experiences in the future.
Okay, so let's just bring it back to the core idea then. Local shop owners are powerful, often unconscious, designers actively shaping their communities just by running their businesses.
And researchers have provided a practical framework, those 4 archetypes, driven by a proprietor's specific community vision, to understand these silent designers, and importantly, to provide expert designers with a tool for effective facilitation.
It really underscores that the role of the expert designer is shifting, isn't it? From the sole solution giver to someone who empowers and orchestrates the design efforts of others.
Yeah, it's about recognizing and enabling the inherent capacity for community building that already exists all around us.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. If it's true that everybody designs now, from the proprietor creating a unique shop experience to maybe the neighbor organizing a street event, what does that mean for where true innovation and community building will emerge from in the future? And thinking about your own neighborhood, what is your part in shaping the places you care about?